Let's say I want to create a new inquiry for my students. I will click on the Create a New Inquiry button. I will choose the name of the inquiry. I can write a brief description. I can add some tags. I can set the inquiry membership permissions to either open or closed. I can make this inquiry public for anyone to see or visible only to its members or logged in users. If I want to collect data through the AirLearn mobile app, I can enable it here. I can also enable shared inquiry administration. And here's my new inquiry. My inquiry consists of 6 phases that correspond to the phases of the WeSpot IBL model. Each phase contains a set of inquiry components that my students will use when performing the inquiry. As the WeSpot IBL model dictates, there is no restriction in the sequence of execution of the phases, meaning that my students can jump from one phase to another. As a teacher, I can customize each phase by adding or removing inquiry components. Each phase comes with a help component that contains a methodology guide explaining what the phase is about. There is also a quiz that the students can take in order to self-assess what they have learned about each phase of the inquiry. Let's say that I want to create an initial hypothesis for my students. To do that, I will go to the first phase, and in the hypothesis inquiry component, I will click on Create Hypothesis. Here I can choose the title of my hypothesis, type the text, and publish it. My students later on will be able to further edit this hypothesis collaboratively. In the same way, I can prepare the rest of the inquiry components for my students. Once I have finished preparing the inquiry, I can invite my students to join it. I can invite friends that I already have in this website, or I can find users by searching with their names or email addresses. I can also upload a CSV file with the details of my students. Let's add a couple of students to this inquiry. If I wish, I can add a personal note, and then I can send out the invitations. I can manage the existing invitations from the home page of the inquiry. Let's say that I want to have more than one group of students working on the same inquiry. In this case, I will use the inquiry just created as a template, and I will duplicate it as many times as the number of groups that I want to have. I now have a duplicate inquiry with the same inquiry components and content as the original one.